Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Advisor with Stacey Chillemi. And today I'm very excited because we have Chris Janssen on the show today. She is part of our podcast community. She has her own podcast on our channel, and she is amazing. She is a coach and an author, and she really has a great topic she wants to share with you today. It's basically about belief equals truth plus story, and it's the meaning attached to the circumstances, how it becomes our beliefs. So I really love how you explain it. You basically just, tip the iceberg with me before the show, but it's really powerful, your message, and I can't wait till you share it with the world. How are you today?
I'm fantastic. How are you, Stacey?
I'm doing well. For people who don't know you or they may not have heard you before, can you tell everybody a little about yourself before we begin?
Yeah, of course. So I'm Chris Janssen. I'm a performance and mindset coach, and I am an author of Living All In, How to Show Up for the Life You Want. I'm an author of a new book launching next month, February 18th. Grace Yourself. If people are watching, here it is. Grace Yourself, How to Show Up for the Sober Life You Want. And they're both full of my coaching tools. In this new one coming out, I share, since I am sober and have been in recovery since 2007, I share how to break free from strongholds and make that sustainable. And in order to do that, I share my own story with alcohol addiction. The book's not specific to alcohol addiction for the reader.
Hmm.
However, it helps me share the tools with other people, but it's going to be very impactful for people no
Yeah.
matter what
Oh, yeah.
their hang up is, right? If they're struggling with a pattern or a habit that they want to get rid of, or maybe it's turned into an addiction, even if it's controlling thoughts or breaking free from perfectionism or
Yeah.
ritualist or rigid thinking, this book will be really helpful for people um, in that space too.
And it's amazing because when it comes to addiction and it comes to the way of coping with addiction, those tools that they teach for coping with addiction actually could be utilized in any life situation. It's so
Mm,
powerful, the different tools and strategies and the different things you learn when you're going through recovery.
hmm.
All those tools that you learn, really, you could take it, you can bring that to any situation in your life and utilize it. But that's another podcast. But I get
Hmm.
what you're saying when you talk about the tools and the strategies in the book, and it's not just about sobriety, but it all those tools you use, you could actually it could help you with stress. It could help you with a lot of different things in life, and it's just amazing. But
Hmm.
you wanted to talk about how the meaning with attached circumstances in our life and how that can become our beliefs. And can you go more into depth about what that means?
Yeah, it's what I mean is the meaning we attach to
Hmm.
circumstances in our life, especially those outside of our control, becomes our belief. So I have a framework, and exactly like you said, this helps in sobriety and habits. It helps in every other area of our life as well, especially with circumstances outside of our control, because we can't control everything in our life. And some of us have lived with a limiting belief or a limiting story for years, maybe
Yeah.
since childhood, that we don't really know where we picked up, right? So
Mhm.
I'm helping people bring those subconscious thoughts to the conscious mind, question them, and ask, is this the best story I can attach to what just happened? And
Right.
you and I were talking before we started recording that I do live in Los Angeles, where we just had fires, and talk about a circumstance and situation outside of our control.
Right.
Right. And so I think especially for the children there that have lost their homes and their schools and their playgrounds and their library and their friends' houses and everything that's given them safety and routine and comfort,
Hmm.
their parents can really help them right now with what story and meaning do we want to attach to
Yeah.
this fact that just happened? Because we
Right.
can't we can't change the fact. We can't make the fire go away. We can help our kids and ourselves to write a good narrative around it
Yeah.
and then condition that and sit with that. And so the framework in my book is, and it's actually in both the books, in Living All In and Grace Yourself, is simply called belief equals truth plus story. And so, and I walk the reader through, there's space to fill it out on your own so you can take your own situations and really take an honest look at what's the story you've attached to it. So
Yeah.
I'm going to read a paragraph just to explain what I'm talking about here. So this one's from Grace Yourself, and this is in chapter 5 of Grace Yourself. The story you tell yourself about something becomes your belief about that thing. That belief can propel you forward or hold you back. You get to choose whether you tell a story that exhausts you or one that energizes you. And that story will cast shadows or light on your past, define your present, and steer your future. You're in charge of what you think about things. You're fully responsible for the stories you attach to the facts in your life. Again, a belief is made up of two things, what's true and what's made up.
Right.
Truth plus story. It's that simple. And so what I mean is a belief is made up of two things, the truth and the story you attach to that truth.
Right.
And again, like so many things, it is simple. It's not easy though. So we do
Yeah.
want to be vigilant. We want to be aware. We want to also be aware that we're not adapting another person's story or narrative about an event, whether that's a parent, a friend, whoever.
Yes.
Um, and so the simple way to explain the exercise for a listener who's not reading the book right now would be to write down the fact of what happened, right? Like a, a fire or whatever it is, something outside your control. And then be honest and think, if I'm really honest, what's the story I've attached to this fact?
Yeah.
And write down that story. Take a sheet of paper, let's say on the left side, you write down that story as you hear it going through your head.
Yeah.
Um, God doesn't love me, whatever it is, we might, until we write it down and be honest with ourselves, that story might be very subconscious. We might think, oh, I'm a positive person, but we could be having a really limiting story.
Yeah.
So get it on paper, get it out, write it down, then go through that whole story, and highlight or circle only what's true,
Right.
right? In this case, there was a fire. Well, that's a fact, that's true. So you're going to highlight that.
Yes.
The story you attach to it for now, don't highlight that because that is a story. And then on the right side of the paper, take those things you highlighted, the truths of what happened, the facts,
Mm-hmm.
and write a better story to attach to those facts. And here's the important part. Even if you don't believe it yet, write it down anyway. Write down and use positive language, right? Forward thinking, like and instead of but, right?
Right.
Watch, and I go through those words in both the books, like how we can use language that's going to serve our brains. Even if we don't believe it yet, write down the story as you want it to be on the right-hand side.
Yeah.
And then, it took a while to form the old story. So we need to give ourselves time to let the new story take hold, like a muscle at the gym. It's not going to change overnight, right?
Right.
We have to condition it. So that story is something that we're going to practice. We're going to read it every day. What if you're visual, put it on a sticky note and put it where you see it when you wake up and before you go to bed. Use it as your, wallpaper for your phone or your computer. If you're auditory, say it
Yeah.
into a voice recording and listen to it. If you're kinesthetics, jump up and down while you're saying it. Be silly and get this story to get conditioned into your brain. And over time, with conditioning, it will become your new belief, right?
Right.
Even if you don't believe it right away. And so that's the exercise. As you can see, it's simple.
Yeah.
It also takes practice
Right.
and intention.
It seems like daily journaling would be really beneficial too, because you could write down your daily stories, it seems like,
Mhm.
and really, analyze them afterwards and look at them, like you said, and highlight certain things to make sure that you have positive beliefs, and not negative beliefs that might hold you back or pull you down to the ground in a sense.
That's exactly right. Yeah, I'm a big fan of journaling and of using pen and paper or pencil and paper instead of a computer. That helps get these things into our physiology and nervous system and
Yeah,
our memory.
I like that a lot. I like that a
Hmm.
lot. How long have you been practicing something like this?
I have been practicing that myself since for 10 years now, actually, and it works. I forget sometimes to celebrate. We also need to look back where how we used to think,
Yes.
the emotions we used to have more than the ones we do now, and celebrate ourselves that for how far we've come. So,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, no one's ever asked me that. Yeah, about 10 years.
It's funny because, I think a lot of times we have to remind ourselves because a
Hmm.
lot of times we could be so hard on ourselves and we could, have stories that we've created from situations that just currently occurred. But then, and because we are our worst critics, but then we need to really, like you said, think back to where we were like 10 years ago, let's say, and think about where we were and then look at where we are now. Because I think sometimes we forget, like you said, to give ourselves credit. And I think
Hmm.
sometimes we have to remind ourselves where we were at some point in our life and then really commend ourselves and how far we've come because we always focus on the now or we focus on the past and for some reason as humans we always pull the negative. We focus on the negative when we really should be, really celebrating, our rewards, our the good
Hmm.
things that we've really accomplished. And have you ever created maybe like a list of achievements or accomplishments to remind yourself, or maybe take time to meditate and really think about where you were and where you are now so you don't forget because it's so easy to forget and then be hard on ourselves.
Oh, yes, I do it. Yes, that's a practice of mine. I do it for my clients too. I ask at the end of every call there's a question I ask at the end of every call, and I keep a record of those questions.
Mm-hmm.
And routinely after a period of time, read them back. Here's where we were at.
Yeah.
Because we all forget. That's so human,
Yeah.
right? So that is a practice of mine. I would forget too if I didn't practice celebrating.
Right. And sometimes I have to remind myself because you do forget. You forget where you've been, and sometimes you have to remind yourself. And when you reward yourself, is there anything that you do? Do you give yourself a special day or do you maybe just take a walk and go somewhere, are there things that you do that you suggest to others that would be good rewards for their achievements and accomplishments?
Sometimes it's different for everybody and according to what you're rewarding yourself for. There's no formula, but sometimes it's as simple as, and I do this with my clients too, just right now, reach over and give yourself a pat on the back.
Yeah,
And I
either
can,
works. Mhm.
yeah. And um, and sometimes it's as simple as that,
Right.
right? And a lot, but yes, I do. My husband and I, we love to celebrate things, right? So we'll
Yeah.
go out and have a special coffee or date night where we're just talking about that thing or just
Mhm.
reminiscing, celebrating, other topics are off limits. It's
Yeah.
intentional.
I like that. I like that. Sometimes I think too is that people they can focus on, what's going on in their life, like work, this, that, I have to get this done. Oh, I have to pay this bill. I have to, and really, there's times where we have to, it's so hard to do, but we have to learn how
Hmm.
to really hang up all the garbage, or just put all the garbage in one big bag and just focus on the positive things when we're with the people that we care about, that we want to spend time with and not consistently put our minds on those stories that could be really like stressful for us, and
Hmm.
focus maybe on the positive stories, the good stories. What do you think?
I I think 100% right.
Mhm.
Yes, exactly. I mean, we really can have the mindset that we want. We can, that is one of the great freedoms that we do have. That is one of the things that is within our control is the attitude we choose in any given set of circumstances. So, I love the serenity prayer. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the
The
things I
things I can
can,
and the
and the
wisdom to
wisdom
know
to know the difference.
difference.
Again, simple. And I also need to say it every day because everything comes back through that lens. Can I control? What about this situation is within my control
Yeah.
and what is not? Otherwise, think about the world. You think about all the things that are not in our control, we could really spin out, and that can, leak negative, exhausting energy, not just to ourselves and our bodies physically. You know that. You talk a lot about that,
Hmm.
but to our loved ones,
Yeah.
and especially if we're a parent, to our kids. So we I'm not toxic positivity. I'm not like, let's just find a silver lining and talk
Yeah.
positive. No, it's not about that. It's about just take like attach, just don't attach a limiting story. If you already have
Right.
a problem, don't have two problems because you
Yes.
gave that problem a negative story. So
Right.
take what you can control, acknowledge it. It's in your life. You don't have control over it. Okay. What do I have control over? And let's write that story because yeah, we can't just smile and brush things off. It's accepting it. And if we do that, people that know, I mean, we all know what hardship is like, right? We know that when we move through it, it won't completely crush us. We will see it through to the other side. We do need to keep going though, in order for it not to crush us.
When we go through triumph and we have those tribulations, when you're creating that story and there's negativity in that story and you're seeing things not from a positive aspect, but you're focusing on the hardships and you're focusing on the things that are really upsetting you. What are some suggestions that you have for people to be able to turn that story around and really see the light? Because I always believe that within every negative thing that occurs in our life, we always could pull something positive out of it. What's your
Mm-hmm.
suggestion about taking that story? If it's not, if that story has negativity in it, if you could see the pain in the person through their story, how do we change that? Like, what are some ways that you found beneficial?
Well, first of all, if it's someone else's story, just listen.
Hmm.
Right? I mean, if I'm with a client and I'm a coach and they've given me permission to coach them, I'm going to walk them through this exercise. But if I'm talking to listeners who want to be a good friend, let's not coach our friends and say, they won't like you if you say, well, I think that's a limiting belief. We need to put a positive spin on this. Don't do that. So just listen, right?
Yeah.
But for ourselves, because again, what can we control and what can't we control? We cannot control other people. We can't control their pain. We can control, and if we're thinking about other people and something that's maybe they've said to us that's hurtful, we can't control that. They have a right to
Hmm.
say something, but we can control how that lands on us.
Yes.
And so to answer your question, I would go back to the exercise of writing it down. I worked with, in the first book, I talk about someone I worked with that had a really limiting story. And I have permission and I tell the story in the book about how this person had struggled with drugs in jail and um, because of that self-worth ultimately and had this belief. So he was a very talented architect and he had this story that he didn't deserve to be successful
Hmm.
because of these things. He didn't deserve to be successful like his dad was, and those were the limiting beliefs. So what we did is we wrote it down. What are the truths? Well, the truth is I was addicted. I went to jail. I am a talented architect. I believe um the truth at that time was I believe I don't deserve a good job.
Right.
And then this other limiting belief was I'll never make more money than I'm making now
Yeah.
because people like me don't, and I'm
Right.
making what I deserve.
Mhm.
Okay, so that was on the left side of the paper. So
Yeah.
we took out the truths. The truths were, so that last one I just said is not a truth. That's a
Hmm.
story. So the truths were I went to jail, I was addicted, I am a I am an architect, I am a talented architect, and I um and well, and it was true that he believed he wasn't worthy of certain things. So we wrote those on the right side and we changed the story. And he wasn't into it, right? Because he doesn't
Yeah.
believe the story yet. So
Right.
with the story changed to, I went to jail, I was addicted, I am a talented architect. I am deserving, I'm not those things anymore. I know a lot because of those things. I have deep feelings because of those things. I
Mhm.
know a lot of people I wouldn't have known because of those things. And the party wasn't keen on writing down was I deserve to be successful.
Yes.
So, but we wrote it down anyway.
Hmm.
And that was the big thing over months, practicing that, getting it into your physiology and letting that new story take hold. Well, wouldn't you
Yeah.
know, he's like living an amazing life as a very successful architect,
Right.
right? And so, but it didn't happen overnight. And sometimes it's 2 steps forward, 4 steps backward,
Yeah.
right? And so it's
Yeah.
progress, not perfection.
Hmm.
But it really comes down to the stories we're telling ourselves.
Right. Oh, 100%.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing advice because I think that, a lot of times so many people don't feel like they deserve better. And that's what
Mm-hmm.
holds a lot of people back. And I think, by telling yourself you do deserve better and then looking at all the different things that you've accomplished and thinking about, and it's okay to make mistakes in life. And I think some people were so critical and so hard on themselves, but we all make mistakes in life. We all do things that we regret. But as long as we learn from them and we accept what we did and we forgive ourselves and then we construct a new way of living, better for ourselves, we have to give ourselves that pat on the back you were talking about and not hold that past against us, but move forward.
That's right. Yes. And know that we're not special. Everybody has these limiting beliefs.
Yes.
We're not unique. We've got to be humble and not be significant over this, right? We're not the
Yeah.
only one that's ever had limiting beliefs or had an addiction or had, right? Like stay in community, be open, talk to people. There's nothing, there's nothing shameful about really anything.
Yeah.
We're all just doing our best to live life.
Exactly. Exactly. Now, when you talk about going and getting support and going into the community, do you have suggestions for people on how they can do that? Because some people might want to, they just don't know where to go and how to
Mhm.
find that community.
Yeah, so well, in my mind just now, I was thinking of that particular client and then my book that's coming out. So I'm thinking in terms of recovery, there's just so many recovery communities, right? We have 12-step communities, we have non-12-step communities, we have communities for alcohol, for drugs, for eating, for you name it.
Yeah.
And so I do believe that in this day and age, it's BS if we say I couldn't find the right group, right?
Right.
As a coach, I'm going to call you out on that because that's just
Yeah.
not true. They're online, they're not online, they're, you
Right.
know, there's
There's
and
Zooms now too.
yeah, and we just, we need to focus on a couple of things with community, focus on the similarities, not the differences. It's going
Hmm.
to be a room full of people that are very different personality wise than you,
Yeah.
but you're there because you share a common goal. So
Right.
don't focus on where you've all been, focus on the goal of where you all are going,
Right.
right? Look at the people that already have what you want and connect, hook your wagon to those people,
Yes.
right? And you're going to be different than them.
Yeah.
You won't all have the same background, the same, and you don't have to, maybe they're just your support group friends and you're not friends outside of that group.
Right.
What matters is that you are in community with the shared goal of the thing that you're going there for.
Yes.
So if it's alcohol, be in a community of people who are all working on not drinking one day at a time,
Right.
right? Because that's going to be a real room full of a whole bunch of different people, but you all share that goal and they'll be really helpful for you. I share in this book about um, in this one season of my recovery where I sought out some different types of groups and went to a group that wasn't specifically for alcohol and
Hmm.
And it worked for some people. It just didn't work for me. It made me really confused. And so, just know there is not a formula for support groups. There's
Yeah.
no one size fits all. This world, we have different churches, different therapists, different recovery communities because we're all different. So we
Yes.
can't we can't all have one, but that
Right.
wouldn't work. So just keep looking till you find one that's not perfect, but that you have a common goal with.
Right.
Yeah,
I
that's
love that.
that's my that's my pitch for communities.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Now, if you had to take all the tools we talked about today and everything we discussed, what would be some things that you would like to emphasize on that you feel are really meaningful?
Um, Pay attention to the subconscious stories going through your head. And one way to do that is use feelings as action signals. If you feel a way you don't want to feel, stop and get curious about it. It might be a story that just went through your head about something that just happened. And
Right.
so get in the habit of pulling those out of your subconscious and questioning them and being honest about what stories you're telling yourself.
I like that. I like that a lot. And then you also mentioned meditation. You said meditation is also good and it's also helpful.
It is, I don't remember mentioning,
Oh, okay. I thought
but
when we
it
were
is, I think it's good. Yeah.
Oh no, no. I thought when we were talking about the stories, I thought you were talking I thought you mentioned about meditation and like very briefly about just meditating on the story and really focusing and highlighting everything and
Oh, yes. No, I did. Okay. Yes. So really sit with that story. Yeah. Either write it down or put it on your wallpaper. Do something to condition it. So during your yeah, you can meditate on it, or during meditation time, repeat that story, the new story, the good story,
right.
over and over to condition it.
I like that a lot.
Absolutely.
I like that a
Hmm.
lot. Now, remind everybody when your new book will be launched. It's going to be in February.
February 18th, and where books are sold. So right now it is available for pre-order online at all the online retailers. And pre-orders are so important for authors because that really helps us that determines the lists. People don't often know that, but it's all about pre-orders. And um, during launch week, it's that determines the list. And the list, it's not a popularity thing, it's an impact thing,
Yes.
right? I have a message that's going to help a lot of people. And so the best way to help me help people is to help it get on some lists. And the
Yes.
best way to do that is pre-orders.
I love it. I love it.
Yes. And we can also, right now, till February 18th, I have a website up called graceyourselfbook.com. And you can order it straight from me. And that's helpful too. And you can see I have some bonuses there and some treats for people who pre-order straight through me. You'll get email the master class. If you buy more than one, you get my workbook. There's a lot of good bonuses there. And then people can always go to my website, chrisjansencoaching.com as well.
Oh, I love it. And before we go, can you just tell people your services that you offer
Mhm.
as a coach?
Yes, I offer coaching. I do some group coaching. Most of my clients are one-on-one. You can read about that on my website. Prices are there too, chrisjansencoaching.com. Most of my clients are high achievers, recovering perfectionists. I work with a lot of performers and creatives, entrepreneurs. Um, and so those are my services. And in addition to the writing, then I have the books, and I have a workbook that goes with the second one. And I can come and speak or do workshops as well. And that's all on my website.
Oh, I love it. I love it. This has been amazing, Chris. Thank you so much for coming on the show today. I really enjoyed talking about this topic. I think it's so important that people look at themselves and look at the story and every day is a new story,
Mm.
and we should always, start that story and try to end it with a happy ending. And I think the techniques and the tools and all different strategies you mentioned today can really help people so they do get that happy ending and they can reward themselves. And if it doesn't turn out exactly exactly the way they hope, they could just keep working at it till it
Mm.
does, you know.
Hmm.
And look for that support, like you and other support groups, and you know, I always believe you can never get enough of support. You know, if you find people that think alike and you're all on the same path wave, it could really help change people's lives and totally make someone really, you know, achieve and elevate to the levels they want
Mm.
to in life. So, and then you're making that happen, and I really
Mm.
commend you for that. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. You're making it happen too. So thank you. And thanks for having me today.
Oh, you're welcome. You have a great day.
You too. Thanks, Stacey.